The ten-tailed comet that changed civilization is set to return in 2024. It may do it again. It's a 5-mile comet. It was last here 1486 BC. And we know what happened at that time. That was around the time of the Exodus, according to the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. Now, a couple of years back, in 2016, was the first human spacecraft to ever orbit a comet. And it crashed onto the surface in order to get a closest possible picture of the enigmatic celestial body. The Rosetta mission, as we know. It ended the mission when the vessel launched 12 years before that, passing 2 years around it by the European Space Agency Rosetta probe, circling the comet millions of miles from Earth, making unprecedented close-range observations of Comet 67P Churyumov-Gerasimenko, named after the two astronauts who discovered it. And one of the spacecraft's most significant accomplishments is to have taken readings of the comet's makeup to determine what it contains. What were the building blocks of it? The cometary impact, it seems, may have helped start life on Earth, but comets such as the focus of the Rosetta mission also pose threats to early life. Comet 67P is around 2.5 miles across. So if it hit Earth, which thankfully it did not, it could have put an end to civilization as we know it. A comet just 500 feet in diameter is believed to have caused the Tunguska event of 1908 in Russia. That's when it exploded over a remote area of Siberia with the force of a 15 megaton bomb, flattening 1,000 square miles of forest. But the Tunguska comet was minuscule compared to one estimated to have been around 10 miles wide, which almost collided with our planet 3,500 years ago. This is the comet, the 10-mile wide comet that had 10 tails, and that was depicted in Egyptian glyphs, hieroglyphs, and as well all the way up to China. Now, the spectacular, terrifying ancient comets. This comet was recorded by the Egyptians in the 22nd year of the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III. He described it as a brilliant disk much larger than the full moon, adding that it was a marvel never before known since the foundation of the land of Egypt. Also, Chinese astronomers who meticulously recorded celestial occurrences for astrological purposes also noted the breathtaking event. Now, it was very close, obviously, very big, very huge, a giant comet that, as we'll see later, had strewn the area with chemicals, causing destruction, famine, change in the climate. Anyway, we'll see that as we read on. Now, the ancient Mawagdui Silk Almanac, preserved in the Hunan Province Museum in Changsha, China, depicts the comet as one of the largest ever observed. Not only did it fill a large part of the sky, it had an astonishing 10 tails, the biggest comet observed since the birth of modern astronomy. This is what de Chezau's comet of 1744, that had only 7 tails. Now, the Egyptian record is found in a manuscript now in the Vatican Library called the Tully Papyrus. That's where the Tully Papyrus also talks about the overlords of Egypt landing in the Giza Plateau, as evidenced and witnessed by the shaking in his boots pharaoh of the time. He called them the overlords of Egypt, and the pharaoh was the god of Egypt at that time. Now, the god of Egypt, the pharaoh, was shaking in his boots because of the overlords landing over the Giza Plateau. So, the Tully Papyrus talks about this 10-tailed comet, and a number of writers have cited it as evidence for an ancient UFO sighting, leading some scholars to question its authenticity. But that's another topic. We're not going to go off on a tangent for that. But it would seem to have concerned a genuine event. The 22nd year of Thutmose III's reign is thought to have been around 1486 BC, which is precisely the year that the Chinese observed this 10-tailed comet. So it's the same comet, obviously. The comet must have passed terrifyingly close to our planet, and the ancient comet's appearance was so spectacular that it seemed to have had a profound influence on religions throughout the world. It seems that this unprecedented celestial phenomenon was taken to be the appearance of a new god. At this precise time, contemporary civilizations across the earth all began to worship a new deity depicted as a winged disk hanging in the sky. Examples include the Hittite god Kumbarbis, the Assyrian god Antum, the Mitannian god Ir, and the Persian god Ahura Mazda. So, the Assyrian winged disk, one of the many similar glyphs that represented deities that appeared throughout the world after the comet's appearance in 1486 BC. In China, a new divinity called Lao Tianye, or the Great God, appeared in the sky at the same time during the Sagan dynasty and was represented by a circle with a series of straight lines radiating in a fan shape beneath it and to the side of it, which looks remarkably similar to the depiction of the ten-tailed comet in the Egyptian glyphs. So, fascinatingly, the glyph is almost identically the symbol of the new god that appeared in Egypt during the reign of Thutmose III, just like the symbol for Lao Tianye, the great god. Egyptologists have long assumed that the Aten glyph represents the sun, which no doubt it did when the pharaoh Akhenaten made Aten worship the state religion in the mid-1300s BC, but when it first appeared in the capital of Thebes over a century earlier, it's accompanied by no inscription specifically associated it with a solar deity. So the Egyptian Aten symbol that may originally have depicted the magnificent comet of 1846. But the sudden appearance of new religions was not the only social upheaval to accompany the comet's close encounter with Earth. Throughout the world, there was a simultaneous and unprecedented period of violence. Egypt embarked on a vicious military campaign, conquering what are now Israel, Lebanon, Libya, the Hittites of Turkey, all the Levant, all that area, struck out at their neighbors in the eastern Mediterranean and Syria. The Mitanni kingdom attacked the Assyrians of Iraq. The Kassites of northern Iran invaded Babylonia and southern Iraq. The Yaz people of Armenia ferociously attacked everyone around them. And the Harappan civilization of northwest India was wiped out by marauding tribes from Afghanistan, and all this followed a period of relative peace throughout the world that had lasted for generations. Experts generally believe that the period of intense warfare and social unrest around the world was due to the short-term climate change that saw global temperatures drop. Resulting crop failures meant the kind of scarce resource that invariably led to conflict. The question, though, is what caused the bad weather that lasted for a decade or so. Now, threats to life and civilization. In 1985, astronomer Carl Sagan identified the comet of 1486 BC as the comet 12P Pons Brooks, suggesting that a fragment of it had broken off and impacted with Earth. That's what Carl Sagan believes, that a piece of it did impact with Earth, the resulting explosion throwing debris high into the atmosphere and impending the sun's rays for many years. In other words, the debris caused a type of a volcanic, nuclear winter, causing global temperatures to fall. But this may not have been the only effect of the comet impact. At the International Conference on Catastrophic Events and Mass Extinctions held in Vienna in July of 2000, scientists gathered to discuss possible threats to life on Earth posed by asteroids and comet impacts. In other words, celestial impact, Earth impacts, and of course the possible mass extinction events. Now, interestingly, besides the obvious calamities such as the impacts would cause, such as firestorms, nuclear winters, and tsunamis, attention was drawn to various harmful chemicals that some comets contain. Some of them, the ones that we just had recently passed by us, not the one that's coming now neowise, but they had cyanide in their tails. Can you imagine cyanide in our atmosphere? Everybody? That's totally toxic. So the chemicals, the harmful chemicals that some comets contain and rain over us. One of these is the amino acid vasopressin that can cause violent and aggressive behavior in humans. Vasopressin amino acid. It's not at present known if 12P Pons Brooks contains, because it's still around, it's going to be coming back at us in the year 2024. So we don't know if that contains vasopressin, but if it does, then the substance entering the atmosphere to contaminate the food chain could in part have been responsible for the unprecedented period of warfare that gripped the planet in the early 1400s BC. Coincidentally, just as the Rosetta mission came to an end, astronomers determined that the fragment of 12P Pons Brooks, the comet that came at us at 1486 BC, is heading for its closest approach to Earth. It headed to us in 2017. The comet broke into several pieces at that time after a close pass with Jupiter, one of them being that what is now designated as comet 45P Honda Merkos Pajdusakova, first identified in the year 1948. It's about a mile wide, but luckily it did not hit the Earth. But it's possible that the Earth's orbit could take us through the comet's trail. Whether or not that would have an effect on our atmosphere remains to be seen. But even though passing safely, the main comet itself, which is, even though it broke up, the 10-mile comet with the 10 tails, even though it broke up into pieces, is still well over 5 miles wide, and it's due to return to our inner solar system in the year 2024, in 4 years, in other words. But exactly how close it will come to Earth is at present unknown. Let's hope for the best. The last thing the world needs now is elevated levels of aggression due to the amino acid, vasopressin that it may contain, according to Carl Sagan. This is by Graham Phillips' Ancient Origin and its Sawn-Bended Reality. Now, even with our good new telescopes, we are identifying new comets and asteroids, and this is something that's a reality. We have scars on Earth, Moon, and Mars showing Earth impacts, and some of them have been, of course, extinction events. So one of them being the dinosaur asteroid impacts of 66 million years ago. Please leave your comments. So this one here, the ancient asteroid, the 10-tailed comet, sorry, not asteroid, comet, that was recorded by the ancient Egyptians and ancient Chinese astronomers that passed us 1486 BC. Most of that, that's a half the size now, will be coming back at us in the year 2024. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.